Hello there, welcome back to Jennie Designs with Paper and this week's episode of Crime and Coloring, where we take an alphabetical journey through the United States and revisit some of the earliest crimes. But before we talk crime, let's talk coloring. This card has a lot going on. I'm stamping a floor with ink blot shop. There we go, stamp set. I'm creating a window pane for this cute little Anita Jerem bunny to be sitting in front of. I end up not using the wood grain folder, embossing folder, but I am using the Lawn Fawn window and curtain dies. I'm using 2 stencils to create the outside scene, a My Favorite Thing cloud and Honeybee Stout grass. And I'm using the Lawn Fawn stitched rectangles to create the layers of this card. There is a lot of die cutting, a lot of coloring, a lot of re-die cutting, and a lot of assembly. So while you watch me figure that out, we're going to jump into our crime. Our alphabetical journey today takes us to the state of Michigan. Now, while Michigan was officially admitted as the 26th state in the Union in 1837, there was a little bit of drama surrounding their statehood. There was a little skirmish with Ohio known as the Toledo War, and this delayed the statehood date. It did lead to a trade. Toledo remained in Ohio, and the Upper Peninsula became part of Michigan. So today, Michigan is the only state in the Union with 2 peninsulas. Sault Ste. Marie, founded in 1668, was the first European settlement in the Midwest and the 3rd oldest one west of the Appalachians, for those of you who live there, and Appalachians for the rest of the world who think it should be pronounced some other way. And while Michigan is the Wolverine state, there are no longer any living wolverines found there. There was one discovered in Huron County in 2004. However, that wolverine has long since passed on, and it was taxidermied. Yeah, weird. One of the world's largest registered Holstein herds can be found at Green Meadow Farms, which is situated in the appropriately named village of Elsie. The first air-conditioned car was manufactured in 1939 by Detroit's Packard Motor Car Company. Thank you for air-conditioned cars. Traverse City is the pie cherry capital of the world and hosts a week-long National Cherry Festival in July. Michigan has one of the nation's longest freshwater shorelines, or the longest freshwater shoreline. And if you straightened out Lake Superior shoreline in a long line, it would go from Duluth to Bahamas. Michigan touches 4 out of the 5 Great Lakes, more than any other state. The J.W. Westcott II operates out of Detroit, and it is the world's only floating post office, and it delivers mail to ships as they pass under the Ambassador Bridge. And for today's purposes, the first probably recorded murder in Michigan is the unsolved murder of Charles and Esther Morris. Now, given that this goes back to the mid-1800s, in one of the oldest towns, villages, cities, counties in Michigan, there is not a lot of background history, but I will tell you what I know. Charles Henry Morris was born on the 9th of May in 1847 in what is now Van Buren County, Michigan. His parents are Dolphin and Nancy Morris. He was the youngest of their 12 children, 7 boys, 5 girls. Dolphin was the first recorded European settler in what is now Van Buren County, Michigan. And it seems that the family was most likely homesteaders and farmers and ranchers in what was then like one of the western forefronts of the United States. Now, Esther Jones was born on September 22nd, 1850. Her parents are Asa Jones and Ellen Massey Jones. Esther was the youngest of their 3 children, 2 girls and 1 boy. Now, both Dolphin and Asa came from the East Coast. Asa came from New York and Dolphin came from Virginia, and they settled in Michigan. Well, because this is what happens, Charles met and married Esther. They were both living in Van Buren County at that point in time, and so at some point in time in their life, I don't know when, they met. And they got married in a Christmas Eve wedding on the 24th of December, 1869 in Decatur, Michigan. The 2 moved into their own homestead and began their married life together. They were, according to a newspaper accounts that appeared at the time of their death, a wealthy couple with a large and elegantly furnished home. Their home was about 350 yards away from the road, situated in a grove of trees, and was about 500 yards from their nearest neighbor, if I got the math right. It was measured in rods, and I did a little Googling, so all those figures are approximate. And their life, while they were productive and successful, was unnotable until September 18th, 1879. For some unknown reason, at approximately 8:30 in the evening, Charles went out onto the back porch of their house and was shot and killed. He was shot twice and left on the porch, like he was left where he fell. Esther, who had remained in the home, armed herself with a pistol, and when she heard and saw her husband killed, she dropped the pistol, ran to hide, and was found hiding in a closet when she was found. She was found by their murderer and shot and killed multiple times in the closet. And sadder still was that during the coroner's investigation after the murder, it was discovered that she was pregnant. Their first child, a son, had died the day he was born or been stillborn a couple of years before. Now, Charles and Esther had no known enemies. In fact, the newspapers reported that they were well liked. There were no criminal records against either of them. There were no problems of domestic trouble. There was no hints of business gone afoul or people angry in business transactions. There was just no reason for these two people to have been killed. Now, their deaths were reportedly discovered at sunrise the next morning by their housekeeper, a woman named Jennie Bull, who reportedly alerted their handyman, a man named Riley Huntley, when he showed up for work on the farm the next morning. Now, inspection of their home after they were found dead, and it was discovered that nothing was missing. Charles had 2 gold watches in a dresser drawer, along with Esther's best jewelry and over $100 in cash money. One report said about $110 in currency, and the newspaper report said about $150 in currency. The only other thing of note was that one of Charles's best horses was missing. And during the investigation, a neighbor named Henry Rosewarne said that the supposed murderer galloped right past him between 9:30 and 10 o'clock the night before. He told everyone in the area about this man riding straight at him on Charles's horse, and that he was unfamiliar, strange, and that in particular, he, quote, wore a funny hat. This horse was found in South Bend, Indiana, a few days later, and the horse was worn out, exhausted, and was sporting a brand new, unfamiliar brand on its left rear flank. So the local police are doing their investigation, and they determined that the horse theft was probably the first event. So this person was making noise in the yard, according to the police, and Charles heard the noise, went to look and see what was going on with the animals, and the person who was attempting to steal the horse shot Charles, and Esther either knew or recognized the assailant, which is why she ran to hide. And she was actually found in the kitchen. Well, one report said the kitchen broom closet, and another report said her bedroom closet. The coroner reported they were shot multiple times. Esther was shot in the closet on the floor, and there were the bullets lodged in the floor. But they were shot with a large Navy revolver. Now, here's the kick. Jennie, the housekeeper, her room was just above, on the second floor of the house, just above Charles and Esther's room. And the back porch where Charles was shot was just off of their bedroom. But she reported to the police that she heard nothing. She did not wake up. She did not hear a fuss. She didn't notice anything was amiss until she woke up the next morning and found them dead, according to her. So with all of this investigating done, and there was no one available to identify the murderer, the police called in the Pinkerton Detective Agency, and they also found nothing. Not a thing. The Pinkertons, the famous Pinkertons, found nothing that the local police hadn't already found. Now, like any story, there's lots of theories, lots of ideas, lots of details coming out, and it seems that most of these stories and theories and ideas that were spreading through the township and the county came from Jennie and Riley. However, most of those theories also involved Jennie and Riley in some variation, and the newspaper report did not say what those theories or rumors were. The most popular theory, though, was one that was produced by Riley Hunt, the Morris's handyman. So he claimed that a local man by the name of Floyd Smith was responsible for the murders. According to Riley, Floyd had previously been employed as a handyman and he used the word discharged by the Morrises because of his drinking. So as the authorities are zooming in on Riley, Riley accuses Floyd and swore out a complaint for the police to then arrest Floyd, right? I did not find anything in any of now I will admit that the information on this is really slim, but there was nothing to indicate why Riley would accuse Floyd other than Floyd having been fired for drinking on the job. Like he didn't file a complaint or grumble to anybody when he was fired. Like nobody in town had said, oh, you know what, that Floyd guy, he got fired. He was really mad about it. Literally nobody knew who could be mad at Charles and Esther. Like nobody. Nobody. So on December 17th, so this is like September, October, November, 2 months later, 3 months later, Floyd Smith was actually arrested and taken into custody. He was arrested by Constable Botsford and assisted by Deputy Scott Smith, who was not related to Floyd at all. But before they could even get him to jail, they were ambushed and Floyd was taken. And the assumption was that Floyd was taken and released because they didn't think he had done it. That turns out to not be true. Floyd was taken to some woods near Decatur. He was strung up and tortured for hours and told that he would not be released until he confessed. He did not confess. He continued to maintain that he had absolutely nothing to do with the horse theft and the murder of Charles and Esther Morris. Eventually, Floyd was released, but his life was ruined. He moved away. He could not escape the rumors and then the torture that happened in the woods. So he moved away. And it was reported that he was never, literally never the same. He had some very serious injuries, like to his neck and to his body because of being strung up and tortured. And the trauma of the incident actually was a contributing factor to his wife's early death. She died a short time after they moved away. And keeping this going, in the years after Floyd's assault, there's no other word for it, anytime he was asked about it, he said he knew nothing. He never, ever changed, including the statement he made on his deathbed. He never admitted, confessed, or acknowledged any part in the death of Charles and Esther Morris. This news story was so sensational, partly because of their family name, I'm sure, partly because of their wealth, and partly because they were just so well liked that this story was covered heavily by local newspapers all across the state, and it even gained national attention. And supposedly or reportedly, the police never stopped investigating. It was called a vigorous investigation, but the murder was never apprehended. Never. So, I know this is a super short story. There's no other details. I don't have a record of where Floyd died. I don't have a record of where his wife was buried. I don't have a record of why Floyd died. I'm assuming it was, leftover trauma and injuries, and then just all of the things that happened to him from being captured and assaulted. But there's literally nothing else. And part of that is probably because records and stuff were probably lost or destroyed. I mean, this is the mid-1800s, and, westward expansion, fires, filing cabinets. I mean, let's be honest, things, when nobody was found to be arrested and tried, I am sure that things just got put away. Every time the police station moved, one more record was lost, that kind of thing. But here's the thing that's sticking in my craw. Okay. I'm going to go use my farm words. It's sticking in my craw. Jennie lived in the home. I have never in my life, and I am not a stranger to gunfire because I grew up on a farm and on a ranch, and I've heard many different types of firearms. I've never heard one I couldn't hear. And when you're talking an 1800 Navy revolver, and the corner set a large revolver, so it's not a small caliber gun, and we're talking about a farmhouse, which was supposedly or reportedly a luxurious, bad pronunciation there, for the time home anyway. We're not talking soundproof walls. The housekeeper did not live in a room right above where the murder occurred in a soundproof room. So how does Jennie not hear something? The horses, the kerfunkel, the gunshot, Esther running and hiding, more gunshots. How does she not wake up with any of that? And she wakes up at sunrise and doesn't go screaming for help. She just waits for Riley to show up and then reports the murder. Okay. My inner conspiracy theorist is screaming to me that Riley and Jennie were in on it. I think that it is plausible that Riley had intentions of stealing and selling this horse. So he goes to the farm in the late night when he thinks that Charles and Esther will be asleep. And in the ruckus of removing this horse from the farm, Charles is awakened. Riley shoots him down. Esther recognizes him. He can't leave her alive because horse stealing is a hangable offense. And he comes back in the morning, and that's when Jennie says, guess what? They're all dead. Okay, that's just my opinion. That is just the theory from this armchair conspiracy theorist. Here is a picture of Charles, very dapper looking young man. I also have a picture of Esther, very pretty lady, super sad that her one child was born or died young and that she was pregnant when she was killed. Makes me sad. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Super short story, not a lot of detail, very intriguing. Here's a couple of other videos for you to watch. I've also added that subscribe button. If you haven't subscribed, I would love it if you did. Leave me a thumbs up. Tell YouTube you liked the video. Leave me your conspiracy theory down in the comments and have a really fabulous day.